I called the speaker on 2 occasions, so I sent him for the sitting. The speaker exited, and when he did exit, he called the first deputy speaker to hold the fort. The first deputy speaker came in, and the message from the speaker to the first deputy speaker was that he should hold the fort. He will join him presently, that in the shortest possible time he will join him. He will come and relieve the speaker again. The first deputy speaker yesterday wasn't feeling well at all, and we had to persuade him to come and sit. It's the reason why when he sat for a brief while, he had to excuse himself, go and take his medication for the second speaker to preside, and then come back to relieve him subsequently. So that is the sequence of events yesterday. What led to the confusion? One was the issue about the standing orders, standing down order 81, which requires that when a bill has been debated in the House, when it's gone through the second reading, we should wait for at least 48 hours for us to do the consideration of the bill. But this bill has gone to the Committee of Finance that had determined that it should be taken under a certificate of urgency. The honorable minority leader was saying that there was no indication that the executive wanted to have the bill considered under a certificate of urgency. That is most untrue. Why do I say it's untrue? It's untrue because the bill came to this House without publication. So it had no Gazette notification. And that should suggest to you that the executive wants the bill to be considered under a certificate of urgency. So when it came to the committee also determined that it's of urgent nature and must be so considered. It came to the floor, and issues were raised by the Honorable Mahama Yariga relating to the same issue about whether or not it should be considered under a certificate of urgency. The Speaker ruled against him. And then there was this advertised motion that we should stand aside order 81, which was raised by a member from the minority, that the attention of the Speaker should be on that motion. And the presiding Speaker at the time, the second deputy Speaker, applied himself to it. But indeed and in truth, because we had decided to take the matter under a certificate of urgency, which requires that we could consider it within 24 hours, the order 81 then had been rendered otious. It meant that it had no application. Automatically it had fallen. So there was not even any need to move that motion. Be that as it may, the motion was moved, and a vote then had to be taken on it. And it ended in confusion, so the Speaker suspended the sitting. The second Speaker, who was presiding, suspended the sitting. And then when we had to come back, the first deputy speaker came and assumed the chair. After a while, when he had called for division, he indicated that he wanted to go and take his medication and use the loo. Colleagues then felt, on the other side, felt that, well, if he hesitated, then he could not come and participate in the voting. I don't know of any constitutional provision. I don't know of any standing orders that prohibit a deputy speaker presiding from participating in the vote. There's no such. The Constitution and indeed our orders provide that the speaker, and that is what distinction I sought to draw the other time, the speaker does not have an original or a casting vote. Why? Because our speaker is not a member of parliament. He's not one of the 275 members of parliament, which is why he's barred by the Constitution and the standing orders from participating in our voting. The orders provide that deputy speakers do not have original votes. The orders don't say that they cannot have a casting vote. Ladies and gentlemen, any one of you who is conversant with parliamentary practice will come to appreciate the fact that in the Westminster system, where speakers are members of parliament, the speakers don't have original votes. Why? Because, you see, when they sit in the seat, they are supposed to play the role of neutral arbiters, like referees. So they don't exercise original votes. But wherever we have members of parliament who are speakers, they have a casting vote. What it means is that in the event of a tie, the speaker will vote. It's not only in the Westminster system, that is maybe the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and so on. In the US, which is the flagship of presidential systems, in all the states, the speakers have casting votes because they are members of parliament. It's the reason why our speakers, the deputy speakers, are not forbidden by the Constitution and our standing orders to cast a casting vote. So, assuming the speaker left the seat for the second deputy speaker, and then he came back to preside. Even if he came back to preside, he, as a deputy speaker, in the event of a tie, can have a casting vote. On the other hand, if he came back and said the second deputy speaker was doing a good job, so he was, perhaps after taking his medication, going to be on the floor, as a member of parliament, he was entitled to a vote. So either way, whether presiding or on the floor, a deputy speaker is not forbidden by any rule, any constitutional prohibition or standing orders from having a casting vote. So why the injection of violence with people moving, the minority moving from their place to come and physically prevent the deputy speaker from assuming the chair? Why? In parliament we debate issues with brain power, not brawn. With brain power, not brawn. So if you disagree with me, and that's what I was telling the deputy minority yesterday, whenever you are here, you see what happens. Whenever the minority leader has to speak, we are all ears, we want to listen to him. Whenever any member from the minority leadership gets up, they wouldn't want to listen. Where from that? Where from that? And you saw what happened, that in the course of the melee, A member from the minority moved and with whatever implement scratched, inflicted a wound beneath the eyelid of the Minister for Youth and Sports, himself a member of Parliament. Where from this? The Parliament of Ghana has not witnessed such bestiality before. Do we want to inflict carnage in Parliament? Are we deserving of the title honorable members? Distinguished colleagues, I think yesterday was a day of shame. So we came today, we adjourned the House to 9 o'clock, and when we came 10 o'clock, then we had indication that the Speaker said you will not be able to join us at 9 o'clock or even 10 o'clock, that you will come back, you will come here at 11:30. Subsequently, another message came to say that no, he says he can only be here at 12. And honey, the House cannot be held to ransom by one person. The House cannot be held to ransom by one person. And I think it's most unfortunate. Yesterday, leaving the seat, he told the first Deputy Speaker that he was handing over to, that he should come and relieve him. He's stepping out, he'll come back pretty soon to also relieve him. All that we heard was that he had left to his house. And that's most unfortunate, without any further communication to the first Deputy Speaker or to me. Because as I said, I had been having some discussions with him. And I'm told today that he didn't even have any discussion with the minority leadership as well. So where are we going from here? A most unfortunate development. Is the reason why when we came, we decided that we should allow ourselves some time, cooler heads to prevail, and take an adjournment into the new year. Hopefully, as I indicated, maybe not further than the 18th of January. If it becomes necessary to perhaps meet earlier, we could do so. But that's the indication. And I think that this will also allow us some time to have further consultations among ourselves. It's the reason why the Speaker, the first Speaker, had to adjourn the House sine die. So that's where we are. And I believe that, as you know, the budget has been passed. There was an attempt to portray that there's no budget. There is a budget. And we have had the appropriations bill passed. The budget must be fed. The budget is the work program of government containing expenditures and revenue. The e-levy is going to feed into the revenue considerations of the budget. Yes, it's going to contribute in the region of about 8-9 billion. The total expenditures in the region of about 130 billion. And the revenues anticipated, mobilization from within in the region of about 89 billion. The e-levy is an integral part of it and a very important part of it. It doesn't, however, mean that without it, government cannot go on. Government will run, the budget has been approved, and other sources of revenue will be applied into the new year, and when we come back, we'll do what is needful to rescue what needs to be rescued in order for government to be able to perform its duties unhindered by anybody. Thank you very much.
So we'll just allow 3 questions, if any. Okay.
No, right. Okay. Yeah, leader.
Identify yourself first.
Okay, I'm Bubu Klenogo, GBC. Okay, I want to talk about the issue of the Speaker going out to Lulu. Because yesterday, when we resumed, the Speaker gave indications. The Speaker gave indications that when, in the course of the voting division, you get up to allow the first and the second Speaker to take the seat so that he would also come. But then, on the 30th of November, when the budget was being approved, the Speaker, the Speaker sitting said that he could count towards quorum, but when it comes to voting, he will not vote. But what happened yesterday, he gave indication that he could vote. That is a confusion for me.
First of all, when people talk, must listen carefully. What you are saying is not what the speaker said. I get the impression that you then took the opportunity to misreport. The speaker never said what you are saying. What the speaker, yes, play it back. What the speaker said on that day was that he is a member of parliament representing the people of Bekwai. He represents a constituency. And so when the constitution provides that before a decision is taken, we should have a minimum of 1/2 of members of parliament present in the chamber, he, the speaker, should be counted as a member of parliament, therefore as the correct number to make the determination. That's what he said. Yes, the speaker did not say that even though he's a member, he's not going to vote. He didn't say that. You are just adding that for whatever reason. I don't want to believe that it's for mischief purposes. But the speaker did not say that. Subsequently, when he responded to whether or not he voted, he said he didn't vote. He did not participate in the voting. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have the right to vote. Because you see, once you have the correct number for making a determination, right, 130 plus, 138 plus, the members who form the quorum to take a decision may not all of them be required to participate in the voting. So somebody could say that I must abstain from voting, but he's part of the minimum number required to take the vote. You appreciate that? So that if you have 138 people in the chamber, with the speaker counting as a member of parliament and therefore as part of the correct number to make a decision, and you had for a question 70 members voting for yes, and maybe 8 of them saying that they are abstaining, right? And then let's assume that 60 vote against. The 70 people would have made a decision for the entire parliament. So that is the distinction that the speaker made. Yesterday, he said that I'm a deputy speaker. I cannot be deprived of my vote. I'm entitled to vote. So when it comes to voting, I could take part in the voting. That's what he said. The two statements are not the same. So you should probe the context and don't ascribe words to the speaker, the first deputy speaker, which words he had not said. That's the distinction that I want to get.
The next question.
So that's the distinction, and that is what the speaker said. And I've told you that in all jurisdictions, speakers, even substantive speakers, who are members of parliament are not precluded by any constitutional or rules of procedure provisions to participate in the voting in the House. I think that's the distinction that we should have.
Okay, that's enough.
Thank you very much.
Let's
make it one.
The e-levy in the plenary got to a certain stage. When the House resumed, is it going to start a new process or is it going to continue for a time?
Well, let's get to the bridge, we shall cross it.
Regarding the budget, we're told of a 20-member committee together by the leaders of the House. 20-member committee de-escalate to ensure that the things that we had that period would not repeat itself. That's what happened yesterday. What are the plans to institutionalize consensus building, since it looks like this will not be the last time chaos will break out based on the numbers?
I think that people want to suggest that we have not been building consensus. I think I've spoken to this matter. I'm the majority leader. I've been a minority leader for 8 years. The current speaker has been a majority leader before. Then for the side of when I was a minority leader, Honorable Cletus Abuka also served at one time as the majority leader. The Honorable Dr. Ben Kumbo at one time also served as the majority leader. For 8 years, I was the minority leader. I'll tell you, and the world should know, there was not one single occasion, that the leaders of the majority at the time invited me to a discussion. Not once, including Bagme himself, as a majority leader for 4 years. Not once, one occasion did he invite me to his office for any discussion on the way forward for us as a country. The president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, on 4 different occasions, has, through me, invited the leadership of the House, including Right Honorable Speaker, and then the members in leadership on the other side, for us to meet and dialogue on the way forward. That was even when we had 169. On 4 occasions. President Mills did not do that once. President Mahama, for 4 years, not once. So if it comes to building consensus and uniting the House, if they turn around to say that, oh, we're not doing that, I'm sorry, it is palpable untruth. In my office, there are several times that my colleagues, I invite them, we sit down and have discussions, even eat in my office, just so that we cultivate that relationship. The Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs has, using the platform of the ministry, met with the leadership, the smaller leadership, that is 5 on each side, plus the deputy speakers. We've met, and sometimes even over lunch or dinner, at least about 10 times. And the extended leadership, including the chairman and ranking members of committees, numerous occasions, all to build consensus and move forward as one people. And yet, they turn around to say that we have not been engaging enough. Yesterday, we had several meetings. The day this so-called rejection of the budget happened, that weekend, we're having consultations with them. So we've been doing that. We will not relent. We'll continue to do that. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I think Honorable Chum will give a true version. But like the GBC man was saying, let's get some facts right. What the first deputy speaker said yesterday was, he's a member of parliament, and when he is not presiding, he has the right to vote. Yesterday, the honorable speaker started the sitting, and when he said he was going to eat, first deputy speaker take over. So why can't he also say he's going to eat? It's only a madman who go to sleep.
So this is how the day seemed to have ended here in Parliament. The House just adjourned sitting. If you remember clearly, there was a lot of disagreement from both sides from yesterday. The whole discussion is still centered on the electronic levy bill, which was laid at Parliament on Friday. The discussion earlier on was centered as to whether the levy should be taken as a certificate of urgency. There was a lot of discussions both at the committee level and then at the plenary. Unfortunately, there was a call for division by the minority side, which indicated that they wanted an individual vote count of the persons who wanted the levy to be taken under a certificate of urgency and those who didn't. There was a lot of scuffle, especially when the minority didn't really understand or want to agree that the first deputy speaker was eligible to be counted among the majority outside of the discussion. There was a lot of scuffle, there was a lot of pushing and pulling. There were a few people who got hurt, and the House eventually had to be adjourned till today. Sitting was supposed to start at 9. As at 9, the committee and leadership of Parliament was still at a meeting. They were caught up in a meeting trying to find a way around this discussion. Unfortunately, the Speaker couldn't join the plenary, and the First Deputy Speaker had to adjourn sitting until they come back from the holidays. Something brief happened this morning. I'm being joined here with my colleague, Bubu. Bubu, you were here from the morning.
Yes.
It was quite a short sitting, a brief one at the plenary. What really happened?
Yes, you know, because of yesterday's disturbances, the first thing we can report is that in the morning there was heavy security presence. There was security beef up in Parliament House. There were a lot of plainclothes and uniformed police officers and people from National Security and Bureau of National Investigations all over. And also for MPs to be entered to enter the chamber, they were body screened. MPs were screened before they were allowed into the chamber. And some of them were not very happy. There are some even rebelled. They refused to be body screened because first they said they did not get any indication from their leaders, no communication to them, and that they did not know those who were doing the body screening, and they were not allowed. But some subjected themselves to the body screening. But after that, when sitting resumed, you know, sitting was supposed to start at 9 a.m., but sitting eventually started after around 11. The First Deputy Speaker was the one who led the process in the chamber, and after prayers and correction of votes and proceedings, the majority leader, Honorable Osei Chairman Sambusu, moved for an adjournment of the House. According to him, they had expected the Speaker himself to have come so that they will complete the business that they started yesterday, which is the e-levy, but they were not successful in getting the Speaker. And also because of the tension and all what was happening, they decided that the House should rather adjourn Senate Day, that is indefinitely, for up to about 18th of January, for cooler heads to prevail, so that by that time they will have done some further consultations and engagements to arrive at an amicable settlement of the matter. So basically that was what happened in the chamber. There was no business, the House was just adjourned.
Quickly, when the House was adjourned, there was a statement, a press briefing, if I can call it, by the minority leader, Mr. Haruna. So you were here throughout. What basically was he trying to say? Yeah,
so the minority leader was saying that the major disagreement is over the e-levy, and that they as a minority had always indicated to the government that there was a need for further engagement on the bill, and that the telcos and other stakeholders have written petitions, have issued the bill, and so government needed to consult them. He believes that the bill as it is, the bill is incompetent because there are a lot of challenges with the bill which cannot be implemented. So it is good that they are taking this adjournment to allow for further engagements. He also believes that it's a matter of numbers and that the majority did not have the numbers to push through. And so because of the numbers they have equal numbers in the House, 137, 137. And for that matter, there was a need for both sides to engage. The majority cannot decide to put those each way through. And that the people voted for a hung parliament, and the hung parliament meant that there should be engagement between both sides, and there should not be any entrenched position. And so for as long as the majority wants to entrench their position, they will also remain in their lane and there will not be any progress. So he agrees with the adjournment for up to that month so that there can be further engagements.
You are an experienced parliamentary correspondent. You've been here for some time. We all know the implications of a hung parliament. We knew that consensus was very critical in this particular parliament. In your opinion, how do we move away from here towards either passing the e-levy or otherwise?
Woman, you know that Parliament, to be frank with you, Parliament has always worked with consensus, and on almost 90% of the issues they agree on them. They always reach consensus on most issues. But it's only a few issues which are very controversial that there has not been any controversy, there has not been any consensus. And in the past, what happens is that when there is disagreement, the majority in the House will use their numbers to push through whatever they want. Because on all those occasions, the majority party in the House has a comfortable majority, has a comfortable number over the minority. But in this particular case, the numbers are equal. And so the majority, even if it's a majority, is just by one vote. And because most of the MPs from the majority side are ministers, they are not always in the House. So in this particular case, it means that the minority MPs are on most occasions more than the majority MPs in the House. So it is always difficult for the government to have its policies and bills go through. So in the case of this e-bill, the only way out is for both sides to come to a compromise. The government insists that there is going to charge 1.75 and the threshold is 100 Ghana cedis. The minority says no. And so far as it remains, the government insists on the 1.75 and the 100 Ghana. I don't see there will be any way forward because the minority will always want to thwart that effort. They will always want to use the numbers and whatever to ensure that the 1.75 and then the 100 Ghana does not stand. The way out will be for government to reduce the rate from the 1.75 to what the minority proposed some time ago, the 1%, and also to raise the minimum threshold to about 300 or 500 as the minority is suggesting. If that is done, we believe there can be some way out.
Most definitely there's supposed to be a kind of compromise from either side. You heard my colleague, unfortunately, one of them will have to succumb to the other if things will have to move on. One thing is for sure, the discussion on the electronic levy bill has not ended. Parliament is on recess, sine die, but like the majority leader said, they might come back along the period or when they resume. But one thing is for sure, the discussion on the e-levy has not ended yet. From Parliament, Humu Abdullahi, GBC.